Radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen,
Perhaps it was the chaotic first presidential debate that lacked substance, characterized by a president who ran roughshod over everyone, or the 210,000 Americans who have perished from COVID-19 and the economic peril it has wrought, or the beckoning Supreme Court fight to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or the ongoing conversations about race and justice in America. It's all on the table.
When we look at this election, there are some very clear differences. Donald Trump will never use the term Black Lives Matter. He will never say that. He will never say it. Why do you think they are trying to suppress and to make it difficult or to confuse black people around voting? And the answer is simple. Because they know when we vote, things change. They know when we vote, we are powerful.
At least 20 people associated with President Trump have tested positive. The latest, senior advisor Stephen Miller, whose wife Katie is Mike Pence's communications director. She has since departed the debate venue as a precaution.
As the President likes to say, this is an all-hands-on-deck effort, and we'll continue to bring the full resources of the federal government to support your efforts in the Seattle area and across the state of Washington. And we'll get through this.
But gotten through it they've not, at least not yet, with 40,000 new cases and 361 deaths in just the last 24 hours. As the Commission on Presidential Debates approved the use of plexiglass as an extra preventative measure between debaters, given the high risk posed by the Vice President's team.
When the President told me he was headed back to the White House, he told me to head to Utah. And we're looking very much forward to the Vice Presidential debate. The stakes in this election have never been higher. The choice has never been clearer. And I look forward to the opportunity to take our case to the American people for 4 more years for President Donald Trump in the White House.
Latest polling shows a massive deficit for the Trump-Pence ticket to make up against Biden-Harris, with the California senator expected to press their advantage, particularly around health care amidst a pandemic.
Complications from COVID-19, like lung scarring and heart damage, could well become the next pre-existing condition. In short, there are few things they could do that would be more offensive to the legacy and the life of Justice Ginsburg than to return us to the full-scale policies of discrimination in health care toward the women of our country. But that's what overturning the Affordable Care Act will do. And overturning the Affordable Care Act is a way a nominee gets the support of this president and his party.
And with both presidential nominees in their 70s, the issue of succession will also be front and center. Kamala Harris will become just the third woman to enter the VP debate arena since this format was adopted some 44 years ago in 1976. The previous two were Geraldine Ferraro in 1984 and Sarah Palin in 2008. Kamala Harris, though, does become the first black and South Asian American female to have accomplished this feat. History aside, though, this will be a debate about substance where her opponent has one main goal: to reframe this campaign so that they regain some ascendancy some 27 days out from Election Day. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.
And Sherwin joining us live now. So Sherwin, you spoke about the glass there. I mean, health protocols are obviously so important. Just tell us more about the lay of the land and what we should expect tonight when Kamala Harris and Mike Pence face off.
In 2016, Francis, we would have talked about the glass ceiling being shattered. Now we just have plexiglass between the vice presidential nominees. Essentially, a similar format to what we saw in that chaotic first debate between Joe Biden and the president last Tuesday in Cleveland, Ohio. 2 candidates on stage. There will be no handshaking. It's a 90-minute debate. There are no commercial breaks in between. The plexiglass, of course, will be a new feature feature on stage, given the concern around the epidemic or the pandemic that has spread vociferously through the White House, including the communications director, Katie Miller, who has had to withdraw from the vice president's team in Salt Lake City and return to Washington. Her husband has now been infected with COVID-19. So a great deal of concern here around the safety of the Democratic candidature, the vice presidential candidate. We're told that the hall will be virtually empty, but we also are going to see a different tone to this debate. It will, spare a thought for Chris Wallace in that last debate. Today's moderator will be Susan Page. She's the Washington bureau chief for the USA Today newspaper. So we were expecting her to have a bit of a different experience. And some of the topics, obviously COVID-19, a president who remains sick and is convalescing at the White House, the Supreme Court nomination. They will start in the Senate, the confirmation process for Ruth Bader Ginsburg's replacement. Of course, that a big controversy in Washington. Healthcare as it relates to COVID-19. You heard Kamala Harris there talk about how COVID-19 could be producing new underlying conditions as it relates to how people get health insurance in this country. Climate change, there's a huge storm that is bearing down on Louisiana and the Gulf of Mexico. And of course, this is something that the Trump campaign often does not talk about. And then, of course, the issue of race. Just yesterday, we saw a new campaign video from Michelle Obama, who's known as the closer for her husband's campaigns, and now really providing a closing statement, essentially calling President Trump a racist. You should wait and see if Kamala Harris is going to take that window as an opening for her to attack the racial inequities in this country and place them at the doorstep of the Trump-Pence campaign, Francis.
All right, so a lot of big topics, and you touched on the polling there, suggesting that it's the Trump campaign that has much to do in this debate. Tell us more about what the numbers are saying, and what does it mean for the role that Mike Pence needs to play tonight?
Two big polls came out this week, one from NBC and the Wall Street Journal. They gave Biden nationally a 14-point lead. 2 days later, CNN came out with a big national poll, giving Joe Biden a 16-point lead. If you break that down into the critical swing states, you look at places like Minnesota, Biden up by 11, New Hampshire, Biden up by 10, Michigan, critical to the president's re-election campaign, Biden is up by 9, Wisconsin, plus 8, Nevada, plus 8, Pennsylvania, a must-win for the president, plus 7 for Biden. Florida, Biden is up in Florida by 3 points. Why is Florida so crucial to the Republican nominee's re-election bid here? If he doesn't win Florida, this race is over. He must win Florida if he wants to have a second term. So the numbers speak for themselves. And if you look at the demographics in some of the polls, the deficit in terms of the Trump campaign facing women support Biden by 66 points to 32. Seniors, Biden, 60 to 39. Independents, 57 to 38. So Mike Pence's role really becomes that of attack dog tonight. And of course, for an audience of one, this is a convalescing president that will be in front of his television screen, really looking for his vice president here to punch back and really be able to land some blows so as to shift the momentum in this campaign. They need to rejig things here if they want to become relevant come November. But that said, this is, as we saw in 2016, what's the big lesson we learned? Hillary was way ahead in the polls. Donald Trump was the victor on the night.
Indeed. Like you said, Sherwin, Mike Pence will have to defend Donald Trump on many issues, perhaps race, the mask, and this all playing out while the president continues to recover from COVID-19. So let's get the latest on his condition.
Well, the last official update we got from his doctors yesterday, essentially the president is doing fine. They continue to monitor him very closely, and he continues to complete his antiviral therapy, the 5-day course of remdesivir. So essentially the president is doing okay for now. How do we know this? He's tweeting up a storm. The president is back. He's been very, very active on Twitter all day. And of course, as I said, his big focus is going to be how Mike Pence performs tonight. And of course, given the deficit they face in the polls, he will have to put out a stunning performance tonight. What does Kamala Harris have to do? She has to remain calm. She has to rebuff the attempts to sort of frame their campaign as this radical left on the left of Bernie Sanders, which is what Republicans have been talking about. She has to stay the course here because they really do have the advantage in this race, and they have the facts on their side. There's a president that has contracted COVID-19, and the White House at the moment, an epicenter, a hotspot for COVID-19, essentially operating on skeleton staff. We have visuals of cleaners going through the White House, disinfecting various rooms. And so this just speaks to the handling of the Trump-Pence campaign in terms of, or the administration in terms of how they've handled the coronavirus. And let's not forget, Mike Pence is the lead on the president's White House coronavirus task team. So he will have a lot to answer for tonight.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating. Thank you so much, Sherwin Bryce-Pease, live for us from the US. He'll report on it tomorrow. And of course, if you'd like to catch that debate live, SABC News will carry the vice presidential debate live from 3 a.m. tomorrow if you want to see it live as it happens rather than the reruns a little bit later on.